In the winter of 1968, a Soviet submarine slipped beneath the Pacific and never came back. On board, nuclear missiles and the codes to fire them. The Soviet Navy hunted for it for months. They found nothing. But 3 miles down, in total darkness, the United States found everything. And then the CIA made a decision that should have been impossible. They were going to steal it. Not a document, not a code book. The entire submarine, lifted whole from the floor of the ocean, without the Soviets ever knowing it was gone. This is the story of Project AZORIAN, and the 3 words it left behind. The submarine was K-129, a Soviet missile boat armed with nuclear warheads. In early 1968, it sailed on patrol into the Pacific, and then went silent. It missed its check-ins. It never called home. For the Soviet Navy, this was a catastrophe. They flooded the ocean with search ships, combing thousands of square miles week after week, and they came up with nothing. To Moscow, K-129 was simply gone. But the United States had been listening. Across the Pacific, the Americans had laid a secret chain of underwater microphones, built to track Soviet submarines. And buried in the data was a single, violent sound. A hull collapsing under unimaginable pressure. A submarine dying. From that sound, they had something the Soviets never did. A location. They sent a specially equipped spy submarine, the USS Halibut, to find it. For weeks, it crawled above the seabed, lowering cameras into the black on a long cable, taking tens of thousands of photographs. And then, in the images, there it was. K-129, broken in places but largely intact, resting under more than 3 miles of water. For the CIA, this was almost beyond price. A Soviet missile submarine, its nuclear warheads, and the code machines that scrambled Soviet communications, lying on the ocean floor, in open water, where no one was looking. If the Americans could get inside that hull, they could read the Soviet Union's deepest secrets. There was just one problem. The submarine lay 16,000 feet down. The deepest anyone had ever salvaged a sub was a few hundred feet. What the CIA was proposing was nearly 70 times deeper, in total secrecy, with technology that did not yet exist. So they decided to build it. The plan bordered on madness. Build a ship that could lower a claw 3 miles to the seabed, close it around a sunken submarine in the dark, and lift thousands of tons of steel up into its own hull, all while the world watched and saw nothing. But the hardest part wasn't the engineering. It was the secret. A project this enormous could not be hidden. So instead of hiding it, the CIA decided to explain it with a lie. And for that lie, they needed the perfect liar. They turned to Howard Hughes. By the 1970s, Hughes was the most famous recluse on Earth, a billionaire who hadn't been seen in public for years, running an empire from behind sealed doors, known for doing strange, enormous, secretive things. If anyone would build a bizarre billion-dollar ship for mysterious reasons, the world would believe it was Hughes. So this was the story they told. Howard Hughes was going to mine the deep ocean floor for manganese nodules, metal-rich rocks scattered across the abyss, supposedly worth a fortune. It was completely false, and it worked perfectly. Newspapers printed it as fact. Rival companies scrambled to join a deep-sea mining boom that did not really exist. Behind the cover story, the real machine took shape. The ship was the Hughes Glomar Explorer, over 600 feet long, the length of 2 football fields, with a derrick tower rising from her center. In her belly was a chamber the engineers called the moon pool, a vast room with a floor that opened directly to the sea, so the secret cargo could be drawn up inside the ship, hidden from satellites and passing vessels. And then there was the Claw, officially the capture vehicle. The men who built it called it Clementine. Steel talons the size of a house, assembled inside a giant covered barge, so that not even spy satellites could see what it truly was. It took years, and by some accounts, as much as $800 million. And in the summer of 1974, the impossible machine put to sea. The Glomar explorer sailed to a patch of empty ocean and stopped, under a horizon with nothing on it in any direction. And then she just sat there, day after day, because she wasn't sailing, she was working. Below decks, the crew was lowering the claw, one length of heavy pipe at a time, building a 3-mile string of steel down into the black. It took days, and they were not alone. Soviet ships appeared and lingered, watching the strange American vessel that would not leave. One circled close enough to see her decks. The crew hid the equipment and waited, as the cover story held. Far below, in the dark, the talons finally closed around the hull of K-129, and the ship began to lift. The impossible was happening. The submarine rose off the seabed. 1 mile, 2, and then catastrophe. Several of the claw's steel fingers failed, and the submarine broke apart. The largest section tore free and fell, tumbling back into the abyss. Gone, for good. What was left, they raised the rest of the way into the moon pool in absolute secrecy. Exactly what the CIA recovered is still classified today. But we know this. Among the wreckage were the bodies of 6 Soviet sailors, enemies, in a war that never officially happened. The Americans did not discard them. They gave them a formal burial at sea, honors, both nations' traditions, a service read aloud over the water. And they filmed the whole ceremony. For nearly 20 years, that film stayed locked away. Then, in 1992, with the Cold War over, the United States quietly handed it to the president of Russia, the only thing it ever gave back, and the only proof those families would ever have of how their men were laid to rest. The mission was half a triumph and half a disaster, and it was about to become something far more dangerous. Public. It began to unravel almost by accident. Months earlier, burglars had broken into a Hughes office in Los Angeles and stolen documents, some hinting at the secret. Whispers reached reporters, and in early 1975, the story began to surface. The CIA fought to keep it buried. The director himself, William Colby, went to the editors of America's biggest newspapers and asked them one by one to hold the story for national security. And for a while, they did. Then the columnist Jack Anderson decided he'd waited long enough. He went on the air and told the nation the CIA had spent, by some accounts, as much as $800 million to raise a sunken Soviet sub. The dam broke. The story exploded across every front page in the country. And in the middle of it, a journalist named Harriet Ann Filippi did something simple. She filed a request under the Freedom of Information Act and asked the CIA one direct question. Did this happen? The agency was trapped. It couldn't say yes, that would confirm the operation. It couldn't safely say no, that would be a lie a court might expose. So its lawyers wrote a sentence that had never existed before. The CIA would neither confirm nor deny the existence of any such records. A court let it stand. And that careful non-answer, born from a sunken submarine and a giant steel claw, became a permanent instrument of secrecy. Lawyers still use it today. Every time an agency meets an uncomfortable question with, "We can neither confirm nor deny," it is quoting this operation. They even have a name for it. They call it the Glomar response. The ship was eventually sold for scrap. Most of what happened out on that ocean is still classified. But the phrase lives on, in courtrooms, in headlines, in every official refusal to answer. A ghost from 3 miles beneath the Pacific. Neither confirm nor deny.